Hey, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our live webinar, Producers Engage event here with the Wealth Integrity Network team. My name is Phil Dizon, founder and president of the Winning Group, as well as a Retirement Show 360 system. I'm going to be joined by my colleagues here, Ricky Villa, Brett Riley, who'll be hopping in here in a little bit, and also Emelina Merifuentes, all part of the Winning Group team to help you do one thing: increase your production, whether it be annuities, life insurance, AUM, long-term care solutions in the retirement age market. We want to be the resource for you when it comes to helping elevating your practice and getting it to the next level. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here to share some introduction slides. Make sure everyone knows they come to the right place because today, specifically, we're going to be talking about the federal employee market. And for many of you who are in the retirement age market or insurance license, I'm sure this isn't your first rodeo learning about the Fed market. The question though, who's actually having success, right? There's a lot of opportunity here and why. We're going to get into that in a second. But what are the challenges and what's gatekeeping you from actually truly having a consistent successful work in the Fed market? We're going to dive into that a little bit, talk about the opportunities there, and then we're going to talk about a benefits analysis hack, the benefits analysis report that is that many successful producers are using in the Fed market, but not everyone understands exactly how to use it best to uncover business. And that's where we have Cassie Graves joining us today. She's actually one of the leaders and pioneers in the Fed benefits analysis report support and industry. She's an expert in the field, and we're going to hear her story in here in a little bit. She did wave her hand. Good to see you, Cassie. And but I'm excited to bring her on into our call. A little bit about us. Again, we're the Winning Group. We're a national marketing organization. Our goal, again, is to help you get to the next level. And our formula for success has always been building key relationships with like-minded producers in all 50 states. That we are based here in Seattle, Washington, but our influence and support stretches all across the nation. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, you name it. Look us up, find us, follow us, because we're all about providing you guys information and the tools necessary to get to that next stage of success. And a part of that has always been our pillars, which is credibility, content, connections, and community. And you're going to hear a lot of those aspects of what we do are going to be provided through some of the training we're going to provide today. And for sticking around with us, we're going to provide every single person here who's attending this event an opportunity to gain access to our federal marketing and referral playbook. Again, if you're considering the federal market, or maybe you've had some experience, great. Hey, it doesn't hurt to have more tools, have more strategies around how to build that federal marketing influence. And so stick around. We're going to give you instructions on how you can gain access to this free playbook. We're also going to give you our version, what we call our discovery call question. It's more like almost like a phone script in a way that we found to have the best approach to having a conversation with a federal employee, whether you're working a lead, whether you're working a referral or whatnot. This is going to give you the best way to get your foot in the door over the phone to set up the conversation for success. So again, stick around to the end. We're going to give you some instructions on how you gain access to this so that you can request it and get a free copy of this here in your inbox. All right. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening right now. I mean, if you're watching this, if you're in the industry, it's kind of hard not to see what's going on in the economy right now. The global and domestic influence of what's happening. People are scared about their retirement. These are common themes that are happening right now. The potential for recession, gas prices going through the roof. Our interest rates going to drop? Are they going to continue going up? Are they going to stay the same? Taxes are continuing to be an issue. These are the things that aren't specific to a federal employee market, but it's definitely on their mind. And let's couple that with the fact that there's been a big move, changes at the top level that's influenced a lot of, a change at different departments, people pulling in resignations, departments downsizing. I think the last number I saw, over 500,000 people have, essentially moved out of the federal employee market over the last 2.5 years. Could be higher. Obviously, a lot of influence from the Doge campaign. So there's a lot of things that are on the minds of federal employees that's making them think maybe they need more than just the basic help that technically they're not getting from their HR department. And that's why we're here, right? The conception is that maybe they're getting all the help they need. They don't have the answers, and that's why it's so important we're having these conversations today.
Yeah,
So
I'll just chime in real quick,
yeah, go
Phil,
ahead.
too. There's DRPs and the Doge is not ending anytime soon, like people think. There's still DRPs 3.0s that are happening with certain agencies. It's just agency specific right now because with that, the agency has to have certain authority given to them to be able to do that. And like I just had a conversation today with somebody from OPM who is going to be taking their DRP option. So these are not ending at any time soon. It's just a matter of if and when it will happen to that particular employee. So we want to help prepare them for when that happens.
Well said, Cassie. I think it's so important that like this isn't something that started a year and a half ago and all of a sudden just went away. I mean, there's beneath the surface, and it's a reflection actually of some of our marketing partners we work with that specifically focus on creating preset annuity appointments. The activity level has not gone down; it's only continued to increase, and so that what you just said I think leans into why that's happening. And where there's a problem, there's opportunities, right? Life insurance, annuities, long-term care solutions, AUM. Because there's a lack of support in the financial industry, specifically honing in on federal employees, because there's a lot of gatekeeping involved, right? It's to break into that industry, and if can be difficult. And we have some resources we'll talk about at the end that can get you in front of those people individually. So when we think about the challenges, Cassie, and I think this is where it's a great opportunity to have you, transition to some of the things that you do with agents across the nation is help address where the opportunities are. And I think the biggest part is access to federal employees, where we have some resources we can talk about. But the complexity of the benefit system itself, understanding the rollover options at different department levels, and then the fact that there is a true lack of support, an actual training specific to working in the field and the knowledge to work that Fed market space. Cassie, what do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. Like I said, I was just talking to an OPM employee who's looking at taking the DRP, right? That's one less person that's going to be there, excuse me, trained and ready to answer questions for retirees and those looking into retirement, right? So, this isn't just an OPM problem, though. This is across the board. People are frustrated, employees especially, because now they've got the online system. The employees are having to learn the online system as far as doing the retirement piece of it, and they can't get a hold of HR. Why? Because they're also doing the same thing and trying to retire, right? So, um, access to information regarding their benefits, even if they can get a hold of HR, is still very limited. They can tell them, this is your option, this is your option, this is your option, but they're not trained to give technical financial advice on what may be the best solution for the employee on what decisions to make. And these are decisions that can be irrevocable at retirement. So it's very key if we can get access to the employee during that planning, retirement planning opportunity, then you have an option there to get in with them and be able to guide them through that process. So, and being able to identify what that looks like for them as far as their benefits and things like that. So, again, it is a complex system. Getting access and information is challenging, and that's where you can really help the employee. We provide a support service that's going to help you and the employee ultimately to make those informed decisions, but help you to guide them through that retirement process, be able to describe what the different options and opportunities are within their benefits and get them to make the right decisions from the beginning so they don't have to spend thousands on some costly mistakes.
Hey Phil,
And with,
I was gonna say, is it okay if I chime in real quick,
Oh,
Cassie?
absolutely, Ricky. Yeah, join the call.
Yeah. I was just making the point of like that's really where I see a lot of value here is, when they just hand you option A, B, and C and say, all right, well, read through all the material. Good luck translating it all. I
oh
mean,
my
how many
gosh,
times do we
yes.
get handed these packets and I'm like, I don't know what this technically means for me and how it's going to impact my life. I think this one kind of looks attractive. There's a few words here I recognize, so that's the whole goal, like underserved part of all of this is that instead of having them freaking out and kind of, winging it per se, and they try to read through these things and
Mhm.
pick their options, wouldn't it be so much more valuable to them to be able to have somebody that can translate that, right? And translate it into their current customized, situation, so that they really like the light bulb goes off in their head of like, wow, now I'm really understanding. I'm so glad that I went through this process because now I really know that, plan C is the perfect fit for what I want in my life, right? And that's where you're
Absolutely.
so good at, Cassie, is like, being able to walk them through those things and help them with that.
Yeah, because we want to help employees have that base knowledge. And through that, we help professionals understand what that looks like, right? We view retirement planning as building a house. And with federal employees, setting that foundation of knowing what their benefits are and what their choices are, and having them have a clear path to what that looks like is the foundation of building their retirement home. And then you can do the rest as that contractor to say, hey, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that to really make this a sound retirement home. So that way, when the water heater goes out, the roof needs to be replaced, things happen. We're prepared for those things. But we want to avoid the employees having to build their own retirement home because then there's no foundation. And when half their home falls off the side of the cliff, then guess what? Now we're in crisis planning mode. And that's what we want to help them avoid. And being able to make that clear for them is really key.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a, it's such an important part aspect of understanding how to work the market that we're talking about, the Fed employee market, is having the knowledge, having the support, and knowing where the opportunities are. And sometimes that can be difficult, right? Understanding you have a knowledge of the products you work with, you know the solutions, but how do you apply those solutions and identify the problems? That's the bridge that we're hoping to go, complete for you today to give you more confidence working in the Fed market. And that's where, for us, what is our formula for success? What's having the proper training? We have resources and certifications. I know Cassie also provides that as well through her organization. Having the right tools and best practices, like we talked about the playbook earlier, that you'll have access to for staying with us till the end. Access to case design support, coaching and expert like Cassie, like Ricky and Brett. We are the, success coaches here in the field working with hundreds of agents, if not thousands of agents across the nation, helping them build the right cases and the case design for that federal employee. And then last but not least, consistent lead flow. And again, that's not necessarily the focus of today, but we're going to show you where you can watch one of our partners that we work with that does focus specifically on creating preset Fed appointments and how you can have that covered at no cost. But yeah, from here, let's go ahead and, Cassie, we talked a lot about where the opportunities are and what those look like. I'd like to transition into some of the things that you do as a benefits analyst and a specialist when it comes to reviewing the report itself. Tell us a little bit about that step. Why is that benefit? What is the benefits analysis report? What is it exactly, right, in the sales process for the financial advisor? And then what are the things that you look for on that report? I think we'll transition into next. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so first we'll just start off on kind of what we do, right? So like I said, we are a support service for professionals working with federal employees. We are here to answer any questions, help with any complexities. We can be on calls if we need to. We only focus on the federal benefits though, right? We don't talk about how that pertains to the employee on the financial situation. We don't want to take kind of your space away. We want to elevate you and build that trust and credibility with the employee while saving you the time, money, and energy of having to go out and do these things on your own and research complexities and things like that because it can be challenging to find the information that specifically works for that employee in their situation. So that's what we do. Um, as Phil mentioned, we help with the benefits analysis, right? So with that, we help with the meeting process as well. When you get that lead, what are you going to do with it, right? He's got the script for you, let's get him in the door. We have a robust fact finder that will help get us the information that we need to build out a benefits analysis that is going to be true and accurate, that's going to elevate your position with the employee. And so it's very conversationally based. We go over, what is their service information and then their benefit details, income versus expenses. That's really what all this is, right? I think there can be a level of complexity that professionals can get a little anxiety about
Mm.
on, oh my gosh, this is so much information. But really, all you have to do is ask the questions and get the answers from the employee. And then once you get that and you can get some other documents from them, then you send that into us. We work with whichever benefit system that you have, as long as it's an online version, then we can build out that benefits analysis and make sure the information is true and accurate in there. And again, that's the whole idea, is to build that foundation with them, right? So when you're going through that meeting with them, you're able to give them the information on what their pension amount is, what certain, other benefits are going to be affected based on them retiring. Is their retirement date that they have in mind really what they should be looking at, or do they need to delay that a little bit longer? We don't want them to unexpectedly get hit with any sort of penalties or anything like that, or maybe just not be able to get their pension and their benefits. Right? That's the whole idea, is making sure that what they think they are trying to accomplish is actually going to work out for them. Or is there a way that they can maneuver certain aspects of their benefits or their retirement package so that way they can really maximize their benefits and then get the rest taken care of elsewhere, right? So, pension, survivor benefits are a really key decision with that, on what is that going to look like for the spouse or former spouse, depending on what their situation looks like. Um, Making sure that that coordinates with their health benefit is really key. We don't want to say, yeah, you should do this, and then not know what happens to certain other benefits and unexpectedly put that spouse in a really bad position when something happens, if the spouse or if the employee or retiree passes away unexpectedly, right? So we want to make sure that things are coordinated in a way that's best for the employee and their spouse and the family as a whole. So understanding how things work together is really key. The life insurance is a really good opportunity as well to be able to replace some of their optional coverages that they have. We highly recommend keeping basic for a number of different reasons, but we can go into that obviously when we have more discussion.
Right.
But understanding their life insurance program and the different complexities there and what can happen or what should happen, and those could be two different things. We just want to make sure it's clear on what needs to work out for the employee for things to be true and for them to have the protection that they need. Also, the TSP, understanding their employer-sponsored program. It is not an ERISA program, so it follows different rules than regular IRAs and other programs, 401ks, 403bs, those kinds of other employer-sponsored programs. So understanding those different nuances that pertain to the federal can be really key to coordinating an employee's financial situation through the time they retire until maybe when they want to start collecting income, because they might not need it right away. They might decide to leave the government and then take another job or something like that. That's very common, especially right now when they're offered early retirement packages and things like that. And so
Right.
understanding just how to coordinate all those different pieces, like Phil was talking about, there's really 3 to 5 key opportunities with employees, and it doesn't matter what age they are, right? I hear from employees, I just want to work with or professionals rather, I hear from professionals, I just want to work with anybody that's 59 and older. Well, really? Because certain employees can retire a lot earlier, especially right now, and still have penalty-free access to their TSP. And so that could create a huge opportunity to be able to really set them up in a successful journey in that retirement position for them.
Absolutely. And I love what I'm hearing. There's a lot of opportunities, but there's also certain pitfalls that you
Yes.
identified that you need to be aware of. And if you're not working with an expert or not understanding how to analyze what their financials or their through the benefits analysis report, you could be missing opportunities or directing them, in a direction that may not necessarily be appropriate for their situation. So, Cassie, maybe that might be a great transition. Is going over what are the things, how do you review a benefits analysis to uncover a pathway to life insurance, to rolling that TSP over to maybe offering other additional services outside of what they currently have or don't have. Because we all know the benefits they get from the Fed isn't as complete as they think. And
Mhm.
that's where the opportunity comes in. But yeah, I think would that be something we will able to do today is actually go through the benefits analysis report as a sample?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we could go through a sample real quick and just kind of see how we put it together because just like um, the the fact finder, the benefits analysis that we provide is put together in such a way where, again, it's conversationally based, right? We don't want you to get a 40-page report that is just going to be a jumbled mess, honestly.
Right.
The whole idea behind the benefits analysis is exactly that, to identify the pitfalls within those benefits so they can see what those financial impacts look like. And that way you can be set up to have that position to say, hey, if I can do XYZ for you, would you like to know more about that? And the idea and the
Mhm.
psychology behind it, right? So it is very conversationally based because you want to just take them on a journey of education and knowledge about what their benefits will actually do for them or not do, depending on what their benefit choices are. And so that's really key um, to be able to understand that and help them identify the pitfalls. So I'll go ahead and share my
Yeah.
screen real quick.
And I like what you
Um,
said there, simplifying what could easily be complicated, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
going through any report, I know there's different types of benefits analysis reports out that are built around the Fed market, but prospects and client, the Fed employees aren't looking for complicated, right? They're looking
Right.
for what makes sense. And so the better, and I think that's a part of what you do so well, Cassie, is that you break down the walls for both the agent and the client when understanding exactly where are the hot points that you need to be focusing on that help the client or prospect, I should say, make a decision to get that next appointment, right? Because we're not hard
Absolutely.
closing them on anything. At this moment, Cassie, I think we're just really educating them, like what
Yeah.
you said, on what they don't have and what they do have, and where are the opportunities that can be improved in terms of their benefits.
Yes, identifying the pitfalls and helping them realize that they have a problem, right? Because government employees are so tied to and in this mindset of their benefits are so gold to them, right? Their benefits are what they need to have in retirement, right? They are in this mindset that they want to make sure that they keep their benefits in retirement, which can be true. They want to a certain extent, right? They don't understand what could happen if they make certain decisions in those benefits and what that cost is going to look like for them. So again, we break this down where it's very simplified and conversationally based. So you've got the overview report. We can estimate how much they need for retirement. What are those different income sources? Worst case scenario, right? We just assume that they're going to use their TSP and whatnot, right? So that gives us a picture of when they're going to need additional income and when that kind of drops off. What happens if they take their TSP immediately and right away, right? And we can paint that picture for them and say, okay, well, by this date, you're going to run out of money. What does that look like for you, right? And you can ask certain questions, and we can um, go over this with you and the employee. You can figure out how that communication works with us. We build you up. Like I said, you can see here where we have our logo and our information, but we actually brand this to you as the advisor. Um, this is just to show you kind of where your information will live. And so that's really key, though. We help, like I said, do the presentation. But in each scenario, in each section, we're asking, well, if you could have guaranteed income out of your TSP, how would that look for you? How would you feel about that, right? Because we know these are emotional sales, right? And hey, if John can help you have that function within your program, would you like to know more about that? Right? You're asking the same questions if you're doing the presentation, right? So there's a lot that we can do here, helping them understand, hey, this person, they're 60 with 40 years. If they work 2 more years, what does that financially look like for them? And you're going to have these talking points as well for certain things within the benefit analysis email that we provide back to you. And so all of those different points will be there. We do the survivor benefit partial versus max. What does that look like if the employee needs to keep the spouse on their health benefit program? They might not want to do the maximum benefit, right? Especially if you educate them and say, hey, this is death insurance, not life insurance, number one. But number two, if we could save you $40,000 by the time you're 75 into this program, how would that feel for you? Because you're going to pay twice as much if you're going to maximize this benefit, right? Saving tens of thousands of dollars in retirement can be really key. Helping them understand that this is not a flat fee, right? They think, oh, 10%, that's like, they don't understand there's actually a percentage increase because of cost of living adjustments and things like that. When they start getting that in their pension, their premium is going to increase, right?
Mm.
So this is not a flat dollared amount benefit. Um, so helping them understand what that looks like from that financial standpoint. We educate them on what happens when somebody dies. That's always the next question. But then when we get to this benefit, this is the TSP. We talk about what is their 5 options within the TSP, right? Do they leave it, if they annuitize it, if they take the systematic withdrawals, but what are the other options outside of the benefit of the government provides, right? And what features do need to be true for them to feel like they own their own money, right? And they don't lose access and have certain limitations. So again, we have the graphs for all of our wonderful visual learners rather than our more engineered employees. We want to acquiesce to all of our employees and make sure that they have what they need to make those informed decisions. But then we jump down here to the FEGLI benefit. Again, we show them assuming that they need to keep the benefit, right? Most people don't realize how much coverage they actually have in their benefit, though, and they most likely have not made any informed decision or educated decision on how much life insurance they actually need with the government. It's not uncommon for employees to have outside term policies, outside whole life policies, that sort of thing. What they don't understand is that this is a 5-year term.
Hey, Cassie, can
Most,
I interrupt you here for a second?
yeah,
Just
absolutely.
because this is super valuable and this is stuff that our agents and advisors have been wanting to see for a long time. So I want to do a quick call to action.
Yeah,
Anybody that's watching, if you have a question about what you see on this report or something that you want to see or know if this report does, open up that Q&A section. You may have to hit more down in your bottom bar and then hit Q&A. Type us a question while Cassie's showing the report, and Ricky and I will field any questions or push them to Cassie if we can't answer them. So thanks so much.
absolutely. Thank you. The last part, right after well, couple, I guess one more benefit that we talk about is the health insurance. We get a lot of Medicare and FEHB questions. How does that coordinate together? We can only answer so much, but we do that education piece if they need to understand what Medicare is, how it works with FEHB, that sort of thing. There is some awesome solutions that you can provide here for them if you are a Medicare license or have somebody in your office that can do that. So that's another opportunity there, or can be a little hidden gem there. The other thing that we talk about though is we look at the income, right? Because that's the bottom line. We talked about the income, we talked about the expenses. What does it look like bringing it all together? And this is where you can segue into that deeper conversation. This just has the footnote kind of carries over, so that last page is blank. But this is really where the rubber meets the road, right? We talked to them about that gross monthly equivalent from when they're employed to when they retire. $4,000 difference. Ouch, right? But what does that do on the backside, right? And what are the things coming out that may be able to increase that bottom line, right? We talked about the survivor benefit. We talked about the health or the FEGLI benefit, right? What does that health benefit look like? What can we do for certain parts of these benefits that can set the employee up to have more of their pension and get some other things taken care of elsewhere? So that's where you can really help them out, strategize with their benefits on what that looks like for the employee.
Yeah, I was going to ask Cassie, if you don't mind me asking, are there common things that you seem to always find when you run through these type of benefit analysis reports? Because I'm always told that the group life insurance seems to be like the most common thing that you can highlight right away that they can improve on. If you had to pick like a top two or three things that you're almost always finding on these reports that are easy ins or towards a solution that the agent can find for them, maybe what would those be, or speak on that a little bit?
Yeah,
And then are you setting up a time or make yourself available prior to, maybe you put this report together, you do make yourself available to jump on maybe a Zoom call like this with the agent, right? And do one-on-one calls
absolutely.
leading up to their meeting with the client and things like that?
Absolutely. So we'll touch on that first, and then I'll
Yep.
get into the kind of easy ins, if you would, with different types of employees, because those can be kind of broken down on depending on age, right?
Hmm.
And retirement timeline. But when it comes to access to me, then my professionals have access to my calendar. They can text, they can call. Obviously, the calendar is the most guaranteed way to get in touch with me, but you always have access to that 30-minute time slot. I do work some kind of crazier hours here on the West Coast to make sure that we're available for our advisors, even on the East Coast, with a reasonable timelines and things like that. So we do make sure that, and if I'm not available, we have a dedicated email that my team has access to. So if there's a question that we can answer via email, we can do that as well, where maybe we don't have to hop on a call for that, or a meeting rather. But if you want to know how to present this, what are the sales opportunities in a different particular case? If you want us to join a conversation with an employee, like I said, we do that as well. And we stay in our lane and we build and elevate you as the professional up for any questions that they have when they start. Well, what does this work look like for me, on this side? Well, what if I do this? What if I do that? Oh, that's great. Mr. John can answer that for you, and he'll be able to provide any recommendation for solving that problem, right? Whatever that is that we identify. So that's number one. But number two, the first thing we want to make sure of is making the employee a client, right? That is the number one goal. Obviously, we want to help them, yes, and we want to provide all this advice, but we don't want anybody working for free. Um, so obviously younger employees. We've got the life insurance, and we also have college planning. I mean, how many people don't have a college plan in place? So if you do that, or if you know of somebody that can help out with that, in your office or something, obviously making the employee the client is the ultimate goal. And so those are the first two with the younger, I would say, under 50 employees. But sometimes there are opportunities for annuities with people within that 50 or maybe even 45, 48 age range, depending on what type of employee they are and what their options are within the TSP. So, like special provision employees, law enforcement officers, firefighters, they might be looking at retiring at 50. That doesn't mean they're fully retiring, right? So they probably aren't going to be needing that income. So putting something into another vehicle that's going to help grow for income later might be really key. So, don't hang your hat on, oh, I can't work with employees who are younger than 59 and a half because there's no opportunity there. That's simply not true. It just depends on where they are. And again, even regular employees right now under the DRP have an option to maybe retire earlier than they would have otherwise been eligible for. So some of them are retiring within that 50 to 55 age range. So the opportunity right now, I don't think we need to hang our hat on waiting to be able to gain those other employees. So even assets under management, right? What does it look like if somebody has the mutual fund window? And looking at what that can be like on the outside, especially if they're separating from the government, right? They may not want to, they might want to have more or less self-directed of a program, right? They might want to look into hiring a professional and be more apt to that set of eyes because then they won't be contributing to the program. So their limitations on what that engagement looks like could be very different. And so there's opportunity for assets under management as well. Um, and then let's see, annuities, assets under management, college planning, life insurance, tax planning, right? What does that look like on the tax side? Because maybe having, all this money in the tax or pre-tax account might not be the best option as they continue on their working journey. Maybe they need some other tax-free cash or accumulation that happens the next few years before they're able to turn on that income, right? So tax planning is really key. For those,
Cassie,
go
I
ahead.
was just thinking about something because I think a lot of our producers here, and sorry to interrupt, I was just thinking about obviously the intention of wanting to move assets, and
Mhm.
you made a good point. Just because they're under 59 or even under 55 doesn't mean it's not a lost cause for potential orphan 401k accounts from previous employment, or maybe like I said, early retirement. Doesn't mean they're not going to be needing income. They need to put that money somewhere potentially. When it comes to the report itself, a lot of the producers we work with tend to focus on income. You may have shown a glimpse of this already. What part of the report do you focus on where you can show the income potential gaps? Because I think that's a part of like, how do I find problems? And I think if
Yeah.
I'm going to move assets, probably, and if I'm working with let's say, a retirement age client, how do I identify those opportunities within the report?
Absolutely. And that's the first part of the report, right? I don't always love how this kind of spills over, but it gets the idea across, right? And honestly, a lot of my professionals will use other tools because, again, this is only one piece of the puzzle, right? And if we're looking at the whole picture of somebody's financial situation, they might have other pensions or 401ks or IRAs or whatever that looks like on the outside, like I talked about. Some of them have other life insurance, right? So this is may or may not be the best tool to use for that, but we can at least, one of the questions we have on the core form, and that's our cornerstone of retirement elections. So that's the fact finder we use, or that you can use rather in that first meeting with the employee, where you're asking them, hey, what is your income that you need for retirement? What does that look like for you? Right? We can plug that number in here. Otherwise, we assume that they need 100% because we want to be able to show them if you need 100% of your money, here's what this looks like, right? Um, I know there's some other rules out there that are floating around, 80-20 rule, 90-10, whatever that looks like. But this day and age, chances of them needing 100% of their income at retirement probably higher than most, just due to inflation and whatnot. But I'll digress on that. Um, as far as the income, though, we can tell them, look, here's what happens, if you delay taking Social Security, you get your pension right away, you take your pre-tax first, and then you take your Roth, right? And we can manipulate this if you want to show Roth first or whatnot. And we can show you how to fix that in the analysis as well. But then they get a supplement, and so what are all their different sources of income? And again, what does that bottom line look like, right?
Hmm.
Where is that gap? At what point, when they start needing income, what does that look like? Or do they have a plan for their income, being able to outlive them rather than them outliving their income, right? So we definitely want to make sure that they're prepared in that way. And we do kind of stress on this when we are talking with the employee. And we kind of touch on it and hone in on it throughout the communication of the benefits analysis as well. and making sure that they understand it's the income versus expenses game, right? It's a whole budget
Mhm.
that they need to look at. And so, if you've got Retirement Analyzer, eMoney, other softwares that can kind of, gauge other components within the employee's program and the family program, right? Because again, what does their spouse have? And what does that complete picture look like? Then we strongly encourage that. But this gives them a really simplified view of being able to understand exactly worst case scenario. If they do what they plan on doing, which is I'll just keep everything at the government and take what I need, what does that look like? Right? And then being able to express to them, well, if you have an emergency and you take more than what you systematically need for income from the TSP, that can move this red line a lot lower, right? Do you have a plan for that? Do you have an emergency fund? And you can kind of hone in on those different pieces as well, if you need to. And again, this is just income. This is assuming that we have these values correct in this program, right? What if you need more income? Then what? What if your expenses become more than what you think there should be? Because a good point to this is FEHB doesn't keep up with COLAs, right? Just this past year, the cost of living adjustment was 2.5%, while the FEHB health insurance program overall seen a 13.5% increase. Now, that's not every year, but do we have a plan for that when those years happen? That's what's really key here in looking at those expenses versus income.
Yeah, this is great. I think, we're looking at the 10,000-foot view of what a report can uncover. We talked about, Medicare opportunities. You mentioned college planning. I know obviously FEGLI is a big one. The cost that continues to increase there as well. And I think this is a good transition into some of the things that one of the questions that came up is, what does that mean to work with you directly, and going into what those options look like. This to preface this, a big part of it is that our goal is it is not going to cost you anything. Partnering up with the Win Group, we actually provide ways to provide the support that Cassie does at no cost through our Win Rewards program. But going through this report, obviously there's a lot of meat to the bones and opportunity, but you can easily get lost in the weeds, and it could easily become complicated if you start trying to, if you end up having analysis paralysis as an agent looking through the report. That's where you come in. Can we talk a little bit about how you make it easier for agents to prepare for going through something like this so they're not doing it all on their own?
Yeah, so obviously, like I said, we can help you with what that conversation looks like, right? During that presentation, because the communication is key here. Although we want to lead with service and be information heavy and educate and knowledge and all this stuff, again, the idea is to get them to move the needle, right? And that's where we've got to kind of take a step back a little bit sometimes and say, okay, Mr. Employee, through our conversation, you've identified you don't want to run out of money, right? So at the end of this presentation, you're going to be taking notes, even if I'm doing the presentation or if you're doing the presentation, right? You're going to take note on what are the pain points with this employee, right? They don't want to lose money. They don't like how expensive FEGLI gets. They don't know how much life insurance they need. Maybe they're not aware of the budget that they have or that they might need to plan for in retirement, right? So that's where you're identifying all those different key components. So you can say, okay, I've got a budget plan for you. Here's what you need to use for that. I've got a needs analysis for life insurance. Here's where we need to start with that. Um, I've identified that you don't want to run out of money. We've got solutions for that, right? The other flip side to this is contributions, right? They only get a 5% match on TSP. What if you had something else that they can you do their extra contributions to set them up with something else outside of the government, right? So they can have more diversified planning opportunities. So if diversification is a problem for them and they're only contributing to the TSP, because that happens too, right? It's probably about a 50-50 mix where people have outside accounts versus only the TSP. If diversification is a key for them, let's take a look at that, right? And so you're identifying that. And at the end of this presentation, You're going to say, okay, Miss Susie, we've identified these problem areas for you. Which is more important for you to start with? Right? Because we want to give advice, we want to educate them, but ultimately they're in the driver's seat of their decisions. So making them feel in control of those decisions is going to be key to closing the deal, right? And so saying, hey, where are we going to start with all of these pitfalls that we've identified within your program? Right? You don't want to leave John with the full pension because he needs your whole pension, not just 50% of it. So let's do the 25% and let's look at maybe combining the life insurance with the income need for your spouse. And wow, we've made your dollar stretch and do more than one thing. How does that feel for you? Right? That is the value that you're able to communicate to them, where you're talking concepts, you're talking features of different programs, and you're soft selling them. Hey, if I could solve this problem for you, how would you feel about that? Right? If I could save you $40,000 in retirement and more, because we didn't even go into the costs of what the FEGLI could look like for them, right? If I could save you thousands in your retirement plan and still make sure that you have the protection you need, would you want to know more about that? Oh, yes, please. You're getting them to buy in. You're soft selling them and you're getting them to say yes to the solution before you've even given them that illustration. So that at the time you're doing the presentation, there's no question on why they shouldn't do business with you. You're solving their problem, right? Obviously, you might need some more information as far as, okay, what's your budget on this and whatnot, right? You might have a couple of different solutions for them based on what they need. But the point is that at the solution time, it's like, okay, we've gone through the illustration, here's the application. Let's just make sure you got the protection you need in place.
100%. Well, and I think that that value of having you as a part of that, you could say pre-appointment evaluation is they're not going into this alone, right? I think that's the big part of the confidence builder. Sometimes if you get a question and you don't, and you look like you don't have resources or the answer, that could hurt your credibility very quickly, right, Cassie? I mean, federal employees,
Absolutely.
especially if you're working leads over the phone, a lot of times you work in the Fed market remotely. And it doesn't take much for them to just decide, I'm not going to call this person back after the appointment's done.
A
So it's so
thousand percent.
important.
And I'll tell you what, federal employees are a tight-knit group, right? Good news travels fast, bad news travels faster.
Mm, mm, mm.
And you want to
That's
be
So
able to
very,
say,
very
you want to
key.
be able to say, I have a team, right? Like it's always like if
Yes.
you don't feel confident in saying, I got a team, I'll get that answer for you. Is that okay if I get that back to you via email real quickly? I'll be able to, as soon as we jump off this call, is it okay if I hop on with my expert on my team that can get that answer for us? Is that okay with you? Being able to say things like that's
Mhm.
huge. To have the confidence that there's really no question that's going to stump you. You got Cassie on your backside that, on or behind you that's going to be able to give you those answers and, be a resource for you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And a big part of that cost, let's get to what that retainer partnership looks like to work with you, because we've set up the partnership where, unlike other types of programs where maybe you're taking a cut on commissions, maybe they're getting half of what you would normally make. We made it a no-brainer. You get to keep 100% of what you earn on those cases. Cassie, how easy have you made it for people to partner up with you?
Yeah, so our structure is very simple. We've got a small retainer fee for a number of cases, and then it's a simple per case after that, right? And so obviously, once you guys have talked to Phil and whatnot, then we can talk about what that structure looks like. Getting in tune with us, it's very easy. We've got a contract consulting agreement that we sign with you. It's all electronic via Adobe, and then a simple credit card authorization. So that way, at the end of the month, we can bill for the number of cases that you've sent in, and the pricing structure is all in there, and the expectation is set, right? So as much as we want to set the expectation for the sale with the employee, we appreciate and respect our professionals the same way, and want to make sure that that's all clear as well.
Right, and I believe that the cost for up to, I think it's like you set it up for up to a certain number of cases based on how many clients are working with per session or per month, and I bet it's like less than $500 a month. I mean, it's very
Yeah, the
cost.
retainer is only 350, and then
Oh,
you
wow,
get
okay, even better.
access to us to ask questions. We've got a number of services that are included with that retainer fee. that are in addition to just the basic analysis. And so we can send out what that looks like to you if you're interested in working with the Win Group and utilizing our services on the back end.
And our goal, like we said, is intention is how to have it covered at no cost. I mean, that's a big part of our value proposition. Working with the Win Group is making it a win-win partnership with the network that we provide as an extension of what the Win Group is. And a big part of what our federal marketing approach has always been connected to is our retirement shield system. We call it the RS360 approach. And a big part of that success has always been providing our agent field access to tools that can give you the edge when it comes to earning that business. We have a section dedicated to the government marketing space, and two of those things we talked about earlier, which is our first appointment questionnaire booklet that we've produced. Again, it's more like a script in a way on how to get your foot in the door, to have the right conversations, what questions you should be asking, and of course our federal marketing approach to working and getting referrals once you're in the door, how to actually find those opportunities that we just talked about. What are the top products or solutions that will get helping you earn a sale when it comes to creating revenue for your business and practice? So a lot of things that we just discussed is in this booklet directly. And the leads, right? I think that's a big part of this marketing process and formula is how do I get in front of more people? And it's all about having consistency when it comes to lead opportunities. We have a resource and a separate webinar, Producers Engage episode. I believe it was like 2 episodes ago where we actually cover some of those resources specifically and introduce our partners there. But that's for a different conversation. Reach out to us to find out how. And you can do that by going to our Producers Engage website. On Producers Engage, we provide you exactly what you need to connect with us directly by scheduling a call or by contacting us by filling out our inquiry form to get more details about getting the guides for that first call and the playbook for getting referrals. Our replay will actually be shown here by today. So if you're watching this or if you caught the tail end and missed the first half, you can find all of our Producers Engage episodes here at producersengage.com. And today's episode will be available there as well. So reach out to us directly. Go to Producers Engage. You can call us as well at 888-908-0447. I'll post the phone number there as well so you can reach us directly. But man, Cassie, this has been great. I mean, I think we covered a lot here today. We may have a few questions and comments in the chat as well. But Brett, Ricky, anything else to add or any other questions while we have Cassie here with us?
Yeah, no questions. I just, want to emphasize the point of we've done a lot of work to try and understand, what could be missing in your process for you to not have success if, with a federal employee. Like if that was something you've always been thinking about and you've been wanting to break into that space, or maybe you have been doing it, but you're just not quite, closing at a rate that you want to, and you feel like there's potential there, but there's maybe something missing in your process. I mean, these are the kind of things that we find that are missing, right? Like, are the agents I work with that are kind of at the top of the mountain that are, hitting consistent production numbers every single year. They're having reports like this done for them. They've hired someone to do it. They have an assistant doing it. They're doing it manually and putting the work in to do it. These are the kind of things that they're bringing into their sales process, and there's other elements to it as well that, we support you with at Win Group when it comes to just credibility and making sure that you have a great first impression when you're connecting with people, and, the way that you're, nurturing the people that are in your book of business. If you're working lead programs and you have a lot of, a big book of business of people that, there might be opportunities there, there's a way to approach them and offer, the ability to set up a demo where you could run a report like this for them now, maybe re-engage with them, right? And that maybe you didn't do these reports before. You connect with Cassie and then you go back through that whole list of 100 folks that didn't move forward in the past. They're still there. They still need some help. There's probably still some pitfalls in their plan. And you run through an analysis like this for them, you find out, oh, there is something I can help them with now, right? So, whatever part of the process you feel like might be missing, just connect with one of our success coaches here, either me, Brett, or Phil, and we'll be able to kind of dive deep on that and figure out, what we can do to help elevate your situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the only thing I would add is that you mentioned retirement shield. Excuse me. You mentioned Retirement Shield. That to me is the biggest and best way we have to get in front of people, which is educational seminars. Second to that is work in the federal employee market. And I'm going by pure numbers there in terms of annuity premium dollars of our agents and advisors doing business with the Win Group. If you aren't doing seminars, if that's not a good fit for you and you have federal employee knowledge, or with the help of Cassie, even if you don't have federal employee knowledge, this is an incredible avenue to be getting annuity premium because of everything we said here. But what I hear from my producers every single day is that this is an underserved market. They're more thankful. They're more open to the help. The way that we get you in front of these people is also a great shoehorn in where you're almost positioned as like HR for the federal government, which you're not, but you're put right into the position to be able to be that federal benefits expert. And if you can't be the expert yourself, you've got Cassie. So this is an awesome opportunity to grow your annuity business. And if you don't want to do the training yourself, Cassie is going to be the best person for you to use. So I'm excited to connect people with you, Cassie.
Thanks. And just on a note that about that too, if you are new to the federal space and you just want to be able to talk with them and understand and communicate with them about their lingo, that's really key. And we do have a training course on that too, if you want to look into that as well, first and foremost. And then obviously we can dive into the rest of the getting into the sales process with you.
Perfect. Well, hey, so much information, value here. I think the thing was brought to the table with going through that report, uncovering what the opportunities are. Obviously, it could be as complicated and as simple as you want it to be. But I think having a partner like Cassie on board gives you not just the simplicity of going through the content, but also the confidence to work the market properly. We're not about, there's a lot of people trying to, there's a money grab right now when it comes to buying leads or people selling leads. And I think it's so important that we give you the right tools, the right support, and the knowledge so you can go in there with the best opportunity for success, so you get the best ROI as well. So, guys, we got Cassie as your benefits and benefits expert on your team. We have the reports. That could be done for you. We have the playbook, we have the questionnaire, and we have the opportunity for you to earn free preset appointment leads in the Fed market. Man, there's a number of things to give us a call about. Let's talk about one of those things. 888-908-0447 is a number. Call us right now. We're going to be standing by to have a conversation with you, or fill out the form at producersengage.com, and we'll make sure to reach out to you within the next 24 hours. Thank you, Cassie. Appreciate your time. Always a pleasure having you here, and we'll definitely have to schedule a follow-up a training session here in the latter part of the third quarter, early fourth quarter. But always great to have you on our Producers Engage.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Appreciate you guys. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be in touch.